Well, AI is having a pretty major impact on all industries right now, but I see things in construction that are kind of unique and interesting. I mean, you can think of how it's been used in design, scheduling. You've got it being used with robotics. I mean, I've seen, work crews, drywall crews. I've seen bricklaying crews, all robotics. You've got automated or autonomous equipment. I saw an excavator being used once that dug a trench, exactly the right distance, exactly the right depth. Nobody in it. There's all kinds of advancements like that. You've got drones that are monitoring construction sites now, so you'll see images and videos of job sites where you're tracking progress, looking for safety alerts, anything that might be standing out, doing visual analysis of those images. You've also got wearable technology now where you've got like visors that have augmented reality overlaying actual reality in front of you. But quite frankly, none of that really is what we're involved with. We do construction ERP software, so most of what we're focused on in AI is a completely different set of priorities. We love seeing those developments in the field, and we interface with all those products, but what we're focused on in our product plan and our roadmap is more related to, I'd break it into four main categories of AI. I'd say we'd start off with basic natural language processing, and then I'd move into maybe advanced analytics and functionality that's throughout our system requiring advanced analytics. Then I'd go into the generative AI perspective where there's things that are being generated in the system. And then probably process automation is the fourth category that I'd say is where our major focus is, where we're automating standard processes. Natural language processing, I think, is the thing that has actually led this wave of AI adoption in the last couple of years. When you think about AI, it's been around for a long time. It's decades old, but it was in the realm of data scientists. Now you've got, with natural language processing, you've got the ability for anybody to make use of that technology. I was at right at the end of 2022, I was at a family dinner, I guess it was around Christmas time in 2022. ChatGPT had just come out, and I have a 16-year-old niece that was sitting beside me, and she told me she had to go home and work on this essay that she'd been assigned at school. So I asked her what the topic was, and I felt really bad because I showed her ChatGPT, she'd never seen it, and it completely wrote her essay for her in literally seconds. And I think when I saw her reaction, I realized the impact that this is going to have on pretty much everything, because you can just ask for something and it'll give it to you, and you don't have to know what the correct syntax is or how to frame a certain question. It's just speak as if you're speaking to a person. And I think that ability to do natural language processing is the foundation of everything that is happening with AI today. And when I looked at it, we started our initiative right after that, actually, when I was at the end of 2022, when it was first released, we put our team together to start working on our product called Ask Analytics. And that basically is just the ability to take our ERP data and have users ask questions, whatever question they want of that data. And we've got that now in final mode being released with our next version, and people will be able to just ask their system to give me a list of all the jobs that didn't submit daily journals last night, or show me which jobs productivity levels were low over the last week, or show me based on current trends what are my current cost projections going to be, and list my jobs top 10 of which ones have the best chance of having a high cost overrun. You can even do document analysis in the Ask Analytics. You can actually tell it to go look at your posted change orders or posted any object in the system. You can ask the question, did I get paid yet for that job I did? Or has that change order that they requested been sent yet? And you just have to ask it in English, and the system will just give you the answer. And that ability completely revolutionizes how people think about communicating with their system. They no longer have to learn how to ask that question or where to go to get that answer. They just pose the question. So that idea of doing natural language processing and being able to do a natural language query, which is what we're talking about, was our first real AI initiative. And actually anybody that's looked at the beta and the prototypes and have been playing with it are just completely blown away with what this is going to do and the impact that's going to have on their system. So when I'm talking about advanced analytics, I'm taking it. It's all using natural language, but it's actually interspersed throughout the entire system, where there's different types of analysis that is being done by the system. Like the first one we did in this area was what we call the Project Pulse, which does sentiment analysis. Sentiment analysis is AI goes in and reviews what's been written into daily journals or RFIs or meeting minutes or issues, and it determines based on the words used whether that's a positive or a negative sentiment. And if the overriding sentiment on a job is negative, then it might need to be addressed fairly quickly. If the overriding sentiment is positive, then that's a good sign. So we have this object in our analytics tool now. It's already been released in beta, called the Project Pulse, and that's on a map. It'll show you where the jobs are located and which ones are ranking high versus low on the sentiment analysis score. So that's actually been really interesting. It moves quickly from there into the next level. So sentiment analysis is doing an analysis of data, but it's only looking at those specific things that have text. People are typing text into. When you do the next level, I would say, is probably document review, where you could look at anything throughout the system, whether it's in the enterprise content management system or the imaging system where we're scanning documents, or if it's any object that's been entered into the system, like a subcontract, a change order. It will actually do a review and do a similar type of thing as sentiment analysis, but it'll look for anything that is maybe a risk item or anything that you might need to be aware of. People don't like to spend a lot of time reading long text anymore, and they would like something to, what they're using AI for, or what we're going to be using AI for in the future, is to just review those documents, summarize them, give you the key points, and tell you what you need to do. If you're doing compliance notifications, you're going into a new country and you want to know what the regulations are. If you're going, if you're going to sign a subcontract with somebody for the first time and they've got a different set of terms and conditions, you want to just review that quickly without without spending the time that might be needed otherwise. You can get AI to review all those for you. So document reviews one. Anomaly detection is another one of these advanced analytics where you're looking for anomalies, and that's the similar thing with when you're doing document review, you're looking for things that stand out. Anything in your ERP database can be identified as an anomaly based on historical data. And the AI engine could look at the job and say, this doesn't look right to me. You haven't completed enough work based on the number of hours spent. Or it looks to me like somebody missed this part, in this particular situation, where that typically you would have something identified and it's not identified on this job. Anything that's an anomaly. Sometimes you don't even know what question to ask. When we were talking earlier about Ask Analytics, it was the user was driving what information they want. With anomaly detection, the system is looking through everything and saying, hey, you might want to look at this. This doesn't look right to me. So that's another element of AI that is being embedded throughout the system. You move from there into predictive analytics, where you go, or predictive modeling, where you'll go into in the past, this is what's happened. So you might want, based on what's been happening so far, you can expect this in the future. A good example of how we're using that right now is in our budgeting, and we've looked at a total budget on a job of a certain amount for a cost code, but then looking at similar jobs in the past, we can spread that among all the different periods, and it's no longer a manual task of going and trying to figure out based on the schedule when everything's going to be sent. You can have the first pass done by AI, which will actually spread those costs out. It will also do the same thing with projections. So predictive analytics is able to tell you what might happen in the future based on what's been happening, and that's going to be used in many, many cases throughout the system. Other advanced analytics, sometimes you get into things that we interface with other products for. Like you can get into GPS monitoring, know locations of things, know where things are, know where they've been, track the number of items on a job site or the number of people on a job site. You could have that image analysis we talked about earlier with the drones. You could have those images being analyzed and give you data that can be analyzed. IoT, the Internet of Things, where you can have monitors on equipment that are assessing how efficient they are, and you can schedule maintenance based on certain parameters. All of this is just analytics that systems will just be doing for people now going forward. And those are the things that I was talking about with advanced analytics. Yeah, okay, so generative AI was the fourth category that I talked about as having a major impact on construction ERP. And in the past, the systems have always generated things for people. It's like we produce reports, we produce forms and documents, produce subcontracts, we produce financial statements. But with generative AI, it's no longer going to be up to the user to decide how or to build those things. Systems will build those things. It will know what a certain form looks like, and it will produce the form. You will be able to just say to the computer, generate a balance sheet for this company as of this date, and it will do it because it knows what that looks like, and it knows we're going to make sure it's trained on your data so that it can produce that without you having to format anything. Those examples go on and on. You can have reports. Right now, you've got a menu of reports. And if you print a report and you want to change to it right now, a user would have to actually get somebody in, IT or maybe the software vendor to modify that report. But in the future, with generative AI, the tools that are used to develop that software are all going to be using APIs which can be fed data from natural language. So a user will be able to say, please print that same report, but add a column for the uncommitted costs. Or please give me a subtotal every time the location changes on that report, and it will just regenerate that report itself. This is a little bit more futuristic than the other items, but when you get generative AI is going to start having computers generate things that right now people have to generate. And the list of things goes on and on, really, especially in an ERP where you've got so many things that are managed within that system. I think for an example of imaging, where you've got document types, and those document types have certain fields on them that you want to, when you scan an image, you want to take that data and put it in the database. Well, that technology's been around for a long time. That's OCR. You can scan a document and it'll extract data and put that data in the database. But what you'll be able to do with generative AI is now you'll say, I want to take that data, that form, and create what we call a fly sheet, which is a data entry screen that mimics all the fields in that form. And that fly sheet, which is a data entry screen, is now available as an entry point to your system, and users can define what they look like. Users can say, give me a fly sheet that has all the fields in this form on it. Then when it's created, they'll say, add these 3 fields, make the valid values in these fields, this, and this, and publish it so that all my users can enter that data at the end of every day. And in the past, only developers could do that. In the future, anybody's going to be able to do that. So that's completely revolutionizing how you interface with your systems. Just before I leave generative AI completely, I want to talk a little bit about process automation, which is what I think that fourth category that we mentioned earlier was process automation. And generative AI is going to actually be now generating workflows. In our system and in all systems, you've been able to develop fairly comprehensive workflow processes in the past. That's what systems are. But going forward, users are going to have that control. So they will actually say, they want to create a workflow that does this, and then this. And that, we are, right now, we have a development team working on our AI enabled workflow builder. It's a new product that we're developing right now. The AI enabled workflow builder will allow you in natural language to tell the computer what you want it to do, and it will do it. So I give you an example of a simple workflow as a notification. So you could just say, basically you type it into the prompt on the screen. You say, let me know every time, this is an example, let me know every time a cost is posted into the system that causes the budget to be exceeded. Send me an alert every time that happens. Or send me an alert every time a subcontractor indicates that there's a deficiency in any area or submits an RFI that has a cost impact. I want to see that immediately in my inbox. Those used to be doable, but they would take programming. Now you'll just be able to generate workflows just by speaking them. This is actually, when you talk about what's going to be happening in the future, this ability to tell the computer to do these things. Like I think of the processes that are run by people in the finance departments. Like every month they have to perform a month end. All the steps they have to do to perform a month end. Well, you can just tell the computer to do that now. That's really, you can just in English tell it to go and close that month, set the current period up to the next period, and go and obviously there might be some reversing entries, and I don't know if you'll be able to train a computer on exactly, eventually I think you will, on exactly what are all the adjustments that need to be made at the end of the month. Here, I'll give you an example, a cost reallocation. Costs that are posted into overhead accounts that you want to distribute out to jobs. There's always a rule. What percentage or what rule, based on, it could be on hours or dollars spent, what percentage of the overheads get allocated to each job? The system can just do that. You tell it what you want it to do. You don't have to know how to set that up in a system. You just tell it what you want it to do, and it will go and do that. That's part of the month end. And then eventually you start chaining these things together, and you say, when it's done that, then post that entry, then close the month, then set your current period to the next month, and then go and produce all my financial statements that I normally print at the end of every month. And the system will do all of that for you. You asked the question of what's happening in the future. In the future, more and more and more of these mundane tasks will be done by computers, and less will be done by people. So the question, people, obviously, there's a lot of questions. So what happens to the people then? Because if the computer is going to do everything that people are doing now, isn't that going to cause a real problem? But if you think about it, it just means that the people that are working in these jobs are now all managers, because they're managing systems that are autonomous. It's like they're robots. You're managing robots. You're telling the computer what to do. Systems don't know what to do unless you tell it, right? So I give the analogy of a self-driving car. The people still decide where to go. They just don't have to drive. The car will drive. But you're still needed because you still are deciding where to go. Without a person controlling it, it's a completely pointless thing. The other example, I mean, I talked earlier about the autonomous equipment. I saw an excavator. It was a video I saw on an excavator that actually dug a perfectly straight trench at an exact depth. And in the past, a person would have to have done that, but that person wouldn't necessarily have done it as well. It might have taken longer than a machine would, and it doesn't work as long hours. But there was a person that created that video that his job was called a robotic process engineer or something, where he's actually controlling that, telling it where to dig the trench, and analyzing, putting the safety barriers up around it to make sure it's working properly. So the person is really managing the equipment. So it just changes the way people think about their job. They're no longer doing things that systems can do. They're doing things that actually take more brain power. I'll give you another analogy, another example. Many years ago, in the early 90s, I went to Slovakia to implement a system for a telecommunications company. And I got into the room with a lot of people who wanted to see what the new system was going to do for them. And I was showing them all the fancy workflows that it does and everything that it was going to be automating for them. And they said, but by the way, I had to speak through a translator. So the questions were coming in, and one question came in and said, where do we enter the call records? And remember, we're talking about a country just out of communism in the early 90s that a lot of people entered data, and they had to enter the call records of when the call started, when the call ended, right? And the person asked the question, show me the screen where I enter that data. So when I got the translator to, he told me the question. I said, oh no, you can tell them they don't have to do that anymore. There's no need to enter that data because that's all coming from the digital switch. That digital switch is going to give us all the call records. Nobody has to enter that data. Well, there had to be 50 people in the room. And the translator said to me, I don't think you want me to tell them that. That's all these people do. And I said, well, what are you going to do then? I mean, the switch does it. I don't think these people want to have a job that is completely unnecessary. And they said, well, we're not really prepared we're going to tell them they're going to be doing. I said, okay, at that point, I'm saying that's really not a problem. It's really more a matter of there is mundane, unnecessary work being done that you shouldn't be doing, but there's got to be something that is more valuable that you could be doing instead. And today, now we're talking many years later, those people are no longer doing that. Everything is digital. Everything is done electronically. Data transfers all the time electronically. The whole job description is gone from 30 years ago. And that's what's going to happen with AI. AI is going to take jobs that are right now necessary because there's no other way to get this stuff done. But systems will do all of that. So now the jobs will just change, and they will be better, more fulfilling, more productive jobs because, well, when I say more productive, they will be jobs that are actually necessary, and you're not just making work for people. So I think of that with AI. It's going to change the workforce. It is. It's going to change tons of things. It's going to have people working in completely different ways. But it's going to be much better in the long run because the mundane stuff, the stuff that can be done by a machine, will be done by a machine. The machine will never be able to the machine won't be able to decide what to do. People will always decide what to do. The machine will just do it.